Oh, that cord.
Yeah, no, I always try to do that because then it will rely on this.
Good evening, everyone. It is 6:00 p.m. on Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting of the Peoria City Council to order. I'd also like to welcome everyone who's here in our historic City Council audience, as well as our, council chambers, historic council chambers, as well as our listening audience at WCBU. Welcome also to our audience watching on cable channel 22. Madam Clerk, the council mics are open. Please call the roll.
Mayor Ali,
Present.
Councilmember Allen,
Present.
Councilmember Carmona,
Here.
Councilmember Sear,
Here.
Councilmember Gordon Young,
Present.
Councilmember Jackson,
Here.
Councilmember Kelly,
Here.
Councilmember Euler,
Here.
Councilmember Riggenbach,
Here.
Councilmember Velpula,
Present.
and Councilmember Vespa.
Here.
You have a quorum present, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Everyone, please join me and stand for a moment of silent prayer or silent reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk,
We are at proclamations.
we have several proclamations tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to be exact. So I've asked council members to help in reading the proclamations, and we'll start with Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And Councilman Dr. Velpula will share this proclamation.
Whereas Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month is an annual celebration that recognizes the historical and cultural contributions of individuals and groups of Asian and Pacific Islander descent to the United States. And whereas Asian American and Pacific Islanders includes cultures from entire Asian continent and the Pacific Islands of Melanesia, Micronesia, and Polynesia. AI people are the fastest growing population in the United States and make up approximately 7% of the total population, whereas in 1979, Representative Frank Horton of New York proposed Asian Pacific Heritage Week, and after the House and Senate passed the resolution, it was signed into law by President Jimmy Carter. In 1992, it was expanded to a month-long celebration to be held in May as Asian Pacific Heritage Month. In 2009, it was renamed as Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Whereas May was identified as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month because it commemorates the immigration of the first Japanese people to the United States on May 7, 1843, and also acknowledges Golden Spike Day on May 10, 1869, making the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad built with significant contributions by Asian Pacific Americans. Now, therefore, I, Ritali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, Illinois, do hereby recognize May as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month in Peoria, Illinois, dated 13th day of May, 2025 AD.
Thank you very much. This is also the fastest growing population in the city of Peoria. Our next proclamation recognizes National Public Works Week, and we have, I believe, Director Rick Powers, Director of Public Works. I don't see him, but definitely I see Deputy Director of Public Works, Cy Maroon, and he has some others with him, and we'll get those introductions in a moment. In the meantime, Councilman Carmona will read the proclamation.
Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the city of Peoria. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector. They are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, solid waste systems, public buildings, roads, and other structures and facilities essential for our community members. And whereas it is in the public interest to gain knowledge of and to maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas 2025 marks the 65th Annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association / Canadian Public Works Association. Now, therefore, I, Rita Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, Illinois, and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby designate the week of May 18th through May 24th as National Public Works Week in Peoria, Illinois, dated this 13th May, 2025 AD.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for this recognition. This is an annual thing that goes on not just here locally, but it's a nationwide celebration for National Public Works Week. And I just want to say that Public Works is really, it's the basis of everything that happens in the city. I mean, we are the heartbeat, for lack of another term. But anyway, what we do every day. And we do every day for those, whether they recognize it or if they take us for granted. But we're there for the public on a daily basis. And we will continue to be that way. And especially in Peoria, Illinois, we are going to be responsive. And so I just wanted to say thanks again for this recognition. I did ask a few people to come in and represent Public Works. And Public Works is made up of two divisions. One is engineering and the other one is operations. And we have tonight our engineer, city engineer,
Andrea.
City engineer, I didn't want to say assistant, city engineer Andrea Kloffenstein. We've got Chris Cummings, we've got Chris Woolley, Sidney Maroon, and Darren Graves. And they're all from different sections within Public Works, so it's nice to have that representation. But anyway, thanks again, and we're here to serve you, so just keep us on your speed dial. Thank you.
We appreciate all your great work. Thank you.
I failed to mention that Thursday is our open house at Public Works at Drees Lane. All are welcome. Council, any families throughout the city are welcome. Anybody's welcome for that matter to see what we do. There's going to be fun things for the kids. There's going to be some things that even the adults might even indulge in and learn something. So it'll be a great event. It's Thursday from 4 to 7, and we look forward to seeing you there.
So Director Maroon, this is the time where we get to see all the big machinery and the trucks and climb up on them, take pictures,
Yep.
all that. Okay.
It's climb a truck, get inside, touch a truck if you're not wanting to get inside. I mean, it really does open up. It opens up your eyes to really see what we do and what equipment we have. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next proclamation recognizes Building Safety Month. We have Director of Community Development, Joe Doolin, Rich Storm, our Building Manager, Matt Ziller, our Building Inspector, Isaac Garcia, Building Inspector, Julio Garcia, Building Inspector, and Craig Reed, Building Inspector. And our proclamation will be read by Councilwoman Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas the City of Peoria Building Safety Division of the Community Development Department recognizes the strength of community depends on the safety and economic value of the homes, buildings, and infrastructure in Peoria, And whereas our confidence in the structural integrity of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety experts, fire prevention officials, code enforcement, inspectors, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, and others who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And whereas safety is the built environment is an essential component of maintaining public health, and building safety plays a major role in not only protecting our community members, but also protecting the property values of our city and reducing blight throughout the community. And whereas Game On, the theme for Building Safety Month 2025, promotes appropriate steps that everyone can take at the personal, local, and global levels to actively stay prepared for natural disasters and support and encourage careers in building safety. Now, therefore, I, Rita Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, Illinois, do hereby recognize the month of May 2025 as Building Safety Month in Peoria, Illinois, dated this 13th day of May 2025 AD.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilman Jackson. Thank you, Council. So May is Building Safety Month, and it really is a time for us to do two things: to kind of remind the public about the steps that they can take to ensure that the safety of their buildings, things they can do, making sure their smoke alarms are working, making sure egresses are working. But it's also a time for us to recognize the building safety staff that we have. I often, being in the director position here, when things don't go quite as fast as some people want with permits and inspections and things like that. But one of the main reasons is because we all want to go to sleep at night knowing that the buildings our public go into are safe. And we have 4 building inspectors for the entire city of Peoria that look at about 3,500 building permits each year. They work incredibly hard to ensure that not only the project is going to be built correctly, but then it's actually built correctly. So we have confidence when our residents go into buildings and things like that, they're going to leave the buildings in a safe place too. I think it's something you hear about larger disasters of condo in Florida a few years ago, even a very close scare for the city of Peoria down the south end 2 years ago with the church collapsing. All things that we try really hard to prevent up front as much as we can. And we really do have a dedicated staff that believes in public safety and being public servants. So I just want to take the time to recognize the staff that I have with me. I have a couple that are sick, and then also not with us tonight that are a main component of our building permit. I want to thank the fire chief, and Ryan Harris specifically for their involvement, Julie Schmidt with our Public Works Department. It really does take a team of everyone working together to ensure building safety in our community. So thank you.
You're welcome. We truly do thank you for this important work that you do for our community and the people of our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Our next proclamation recognizes Older Americans Month. We have Peggy, and you'll have to tell me how to pronounce your last name. Peggy Jocks?
Hawkes.
Jockus?
Hawkes, like in
Hawkes,
Spanish.
okay.
My husband says hot kiss.
Okay, Hawkes. She's the CEO and founder and executive director of Graceland Center for Purposeful Aging. And then we have Krista Fuller, who's the program coordinator for Graceland Center for Purposeful Aging. Thank you for being here, ladies. And we have Councilman Gordon Young, who's going to read the proclamation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas May has been designated as Older Americans Month, dedicated to honoring the diverse and valuable contributions that older adults make to their families, communities, and workplaces. And whereas, as the population of older adults continues to grow, it is essential to acknowledge their vital role in shaping the social, cultural, and economic landscape of our nation. And whereas it is important to encourage the physical, emotional, and mental well-being of older adults by providing access to resources, services, and opportunities that support independence and enhance their quality of life. And whereas we recognize the need for continued education and advocacy to address the challenges faced by older adults, including those related to healthcare, housing, and social inclusion. And Whereas we encourage all community members to support and engage with older adults in their communities, resulting in a culture of respect, appreciation, and inclusion for all individuals of all ages. Now, therefore, I, Rita Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, Illinois, do hereby recognize the month of May as Older Americans Month in Peoria, Illinois, dated this 13th day of May, 2025.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Ali and Council, for allowing me to come before you. My team and I are working to create a community-based senior center in Peoria. And when I first started on this journey 5 years ago, I had a mentor from the Small Business Development Council who taught me that if a business was going to succeed, that there had to be a desire for it. His adage to me was culture before structure. So our purpose in requesting this proclamation is to move the needle forward one more step on the pathway to create a culture in Peoria that respects older adults, that respects all the contributions that they've made, and enjoy all their life contributions and their accomplishments. We want Peoria to be a welcoming community where older adults can thrive and age well in place and contribute back. Our premise is aging is a privilege because not everyone gets the grace to be able to age, sadly. So we want to honor older adults that have been able to contribute to Peoria. With 30,000 people over the age of 50 and 20,000 over the age of 65, and we know that this number will only increase, the time is now to develop a strategy to be proactive and positive in order to meet the needs of our growing community of older adults. Our participants come from about every zip code in the city. We have a very diverse group, so they all are all persons that you represent. So as you start your new terms in office, I look forward to working with each of you to try to figure out how can Peoria enhance the lives of older adults, just as many other communities are already doing. Bloomington, Normal, and Springfield have amazing senior centers that are a tremendous asset to their community. I believe that together we can harness the strengths of older adults, their contributions, and create a culture that celebrates their accomplishments with pride and joy and honor. So I look forward to working with you in the coming year. Several of our participants and board members and Tessa Mahoney from Age Central are here today to show their enthusiasm to honor older adults. And Krista Fuller is our program coordinator for Graceland Center. She does the day-to-day in and out, taking care of all the programs that we do. And she's instrumental in connecting people to resources and ensuring that their learning needs and their fun are also met. We have a great time. Graceland is collaborating with Neighborhood House to provide congregate meals, and the number of our participants continue to grow under Krista's leadership.
I also wanted to thank Mayor Ali and the council. I just wanted to give you a little food for thought. Our seniors here in Peoria are the reason that Peoria is the great city that we have. They have stayed here. They have raised families here. They've contributed to the financial well-being of Peoria. If they wouldn't be here, neither would Peoria. Thank you so much.
That's true. And I just want to, yes, thank you for your leadership. And you've done so much and made so much progress in these 5 years. So thank you for your leadership again.
Thank you.
Our last proclamation recognizes 100 years of Caterpillar. Henry Vickery, the Director of Community Relations, wanted to be here tonight, but he's traveling today, so we will get this proclamation to Henry. Whereas Caterpillar traces its roots to the early innovations of the Hope Manufacturing Company and the CL Best Tractor Company, whose merger in April 15, 1925 formed the Caterpillar Tractor Company. And whereas from humble beginnings in the fertile fields of California to a substantial presence in our region, Caterpillar has grown into the world's largest manufacturer of construction equipment with a global footprint and enduring legacy of American ingenuity. And whereas Caterpillar's iconic Caterpillar Yellow machinery, commitment to quality, and strong corporate identity, including its role in the Dow Jones Industrial Average and presence on the Fortune 500 list, have made it a symbol of strength and reliability around the globe. And whereas through strategic growth, innovation, and an unwavering commitment to its customers and workforce, Caterpillar has evolved into a multinational corporation with operations on several continents and products that help build and power the world. And whereas we extend our sincere congratulations to Joseph Creed on his appointment as the new Chief Executive Officer of Caterpillar Incorporated, and express our confidence in his leadership as the company embarks on its next century of progress. Now, therefore, I, Reed Ali, Mayor of the City of Peoria, Illinois, do hereby recognize and celebrate 100 years of Caterpillar in Peoria, Illinois. And I just remind everyone that although Peoria is not the headquarters of Caterpillar, Caterpillar still maintains over 12,000 jobs in our region. So we appreciate that. Madam Clerk?
We are at the approval of the minutes.
Councilmember Riggenbach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to approve the minutes of the joint City Council and Town Board meeting held April 22nd, 2025 as printed.
Seconded by Councilmember Jackson. Any comments or questions? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We have one town item. 25-105 is a request from the town officials to approve the April 2025 actual expenditures and to approve the May 2025 anticipated expenditures for the town of the City of Peoria.
Councilmember Gordon Young? Can you move for approval?
Yes, I move for approval.
A second, and I meant to say trustee, a second by trustee Allen. Any questions or comments? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. And I would note that in the retirement of trustee Graham, that trustee Gordon Young will be the liaison to the township. Madam Clerk?
We are at the consent agenda. 25-106 is a communication with a request to approve the low bid of Illinois Civil Contractors, Inc. and award a contract for the 2024 Sidewalks and ADA Ramps project in the amount of $805,071.01, with an additional authorization of $44,928.99 for contingencies, for a total amount of $850,000. 25-107 is a communication with a request to approve the low bid of Illinois Civil Contractors, Inc. and award a contract for the QCT Sidewalks project in the amount of $402,966.76, with an additional authorization of $62,033.24 for contingencies, for a total amount of $465,000. 25-108 is a communication with a request to approve the low bid of Illinois Civil Contractors, Inc. and award a contract for the Evans Street sidewalk improvements in the amount of $1,012,731.70, with an additional authorization of $101,268.30 for contingencies, for a total award of $1,114,000. 25-109 is a communication with a request to approve and authorize the payment of a workers' compensation settlement to a public works employee injured on June 16, 2019, in the amount of $161,480.26. 25-110 is a communication with a request to approve and authorize the execution of a contract with Advanced Selections LLC to administer the Fire Battalion Chief Promotional Examination in the amount of $31,505. 25-111 is a communication with a request to execute the Tri-County Planning Commission fiscal year 2026 joint funding agreement and approve the City of Peoria's contribution in the amount of $62,959.24. 25-112 is a communication with a request to approve a resolution regarding the approval of closed session minutes. 25-113 is a communication with a request to approve a state motor fuel tax resolution for the Forest Hill Avenue and Sterling Avenue intersection improvement project in the amount of $150,000. 25-114 is a communication with a request to approve a state motor fuel tax resolution for the Adams Street and Jefferson Avenue signal upgrade one-way to two-way conversion project, Adams Street from William Kumpf Boulevard to Hamilton Boulevard and Jefferson Avenue from William Kumpf Boulevard to Fayette Street in the amount of $3,020,000. 25-115 is a communication with a request to approve a state motor fuel tax resolution for the Wisconsin Avenue reconstruction project from Forest Hill Avenue to McClure Avenue in the amount of $50,000. 25-116 is a communication with a request to approve a state motor fuel tax resolution for the Reservoir Boulevard from the railroad tracks to Sterling Avenue reconstruction project in the amount of $320,000. 25-117 is a communication with a request to adopt an ordinance authorizing the City of Peoria to borrow funds from the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency State Revolving Fund Loan Program. 25-118 is a communication with a request to adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 3 of the Code of the City of Peoria, authorizing the retail sale and consumption of alcohol, wine, and craft beer on city-owned parking lots during the operation of a farmer's market. 25-93 is a communication with a request to adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 18, Article 14, Section 18-621 of the Code of the City of Peoria relating to existing tobacco retail licenses. 25-119 is a communication with a request to approve the site application to amend the site for a Class 1 Assembly Hall liquor license with on-site consumption and retail sale of alcohol for Bradley University at 1500 West Main, 1511 West Bradley, and 1524 West Nebraska, with a recommendation from the Liquor Commission to approve. 25-120 is a reappointment by Mayor Ali to the Greater Peoria Mass Transit District Board of Trustees with a request to concur of Patty Sterling Polk and Jeffrey Hare. 25-121 is a reappointment by Mayor Ali to the Downtown Development Corporation with a request to concur of Zachary Euler. 25-122 is an appointment by Mayor Ali to the Peoria Housing Authority Board with a request to concur of Bridget Carter Meacham. 25-123 is an appointment by Mayor Ali to the Advisory Committee on Police Community Relations with a request to concur of David Williams Jr. and Noah Palm. And 25-124 is an appointment by Mayor Ali to the Transportation Commission with a request to concur of Montrell Wright. And that concludes our consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are there any items to remove from consent? Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 25-117, please.
Okay. Councilmember Carmona? That's all right. Thank you. Councilmember Seer?
Thank you, excuse me, Madam Mayor. Move to approve.
Oh, okay. All those items that haven't been pulled off, is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Allen. Any other discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
25-117 is a communication from the City Manager, Director of Public Works, and Finance Director Comptroller with a request to adopt an ordinance authorizing the City of Peoria to borrow funds from the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency's State Revolving Fund Loan Program.
Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Manager, you and I spoke about this item, and there are just a couple things I'd like to get out in the public. The first was we've borrowed this money each year, and I think we all agree to that. There's no problem. But what are we currently paying, or what will we be paying in 25 on what outstanding balance?
So we are currently, we've done 3 years of projects so far. We're in the process of doing 3 years. 2 years we've actually completed. So once we complete we've borrowed the money from the State Revolving Loan Fund. Once it's completed, that's when the clock starts with us paying principal and interest on the projects. So for years 1 and 2, we have about $13.5 million that's been completed. So the principal and interest on that is about $700,000 of principal payments and $120,000 of interest payments, and that's at about 1.87% interest rate. So it's a very favorable interest rate for us for that.
And just to be clear, does interest accrue while the project is undertaken, or does interest begin accruing only after that project is finished?
We didn't discuss that, but
No, we didn't.
I know. I'm going to have to get you an answer on that question. I don't know specifically, and I don't want to tell you the wrong answer on that. If I could, I'll email council and explain what that is in terms of how much, whether that interest accrues or whether it just starts when we start. I just don't know the answer to that.
Okay, and one more item. We are borrowing what we had agreed to borrow 4 years ago, I believe, but we have projects scheduled for this year that exceed that amount by $5 million. Could you just explain that as well?
Sure. In 2021, we came to you and asked for the first authorization. We thought it would last for 4 years of $32 million. We have accumulated about $24.6 million with years 1, 2, and 3 projects. The year 4 projects are estimated to be $12 million, which would mean we would exhaust the $32 million and we need to ask the state for $5 million more. So that's the reason why we're going back. And that's been for a number of reasons. It's been, as we've seen our soil conditions within the CSO, some of the areas we don't have the same infiltration rates as other areas where they're very sandy. We've, obviously maximized the loans with, focusing and our city engineer is here as well if there's a question for you, that you may have for her, where we focused on, trying to put in ADA ramps and intersections as well, where we've been working on the CSO areas. And then lastly, inflationary costs have gone up over this last 4-year period of time. So that's increasing our costs. And that's the reason why now we're asking for the additional $5 million. Our evaluation period for these first 4 years of projects comes through in 2026. So we have to get these projects completed. Our requirements of the federal government are that, we have to reduce 20% of our CSO runoff in those first 4 years with these first 4 years of projects. We don't have to worry about some of the events that we have, but we've got to meet that milestone. So that's also why this project is this year 4 project is a little bigger.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Madam Mayor, I'd like to move for approval.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Velpula. Without this special EPA revolving fund, how much would we be paying on interest for a loan like that?
Well, if we were to go out on the market and bond for this, we'd probably be in the 4.5% range. So, it would double our interest rates, or more than double our interest rates that we would be paying.
Okay,
So
good.
that's why the revolving loan fund is very favorable for it.
Good. I'm glad they have this in place. So we have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on this? Councilmember Seer or?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple questions, Mr. Manager, just to revisit. I know we have done many times before. So there's 5 tranches to the deal, to the agreement. It's a 18 years or 18-year agreement, correct? All payable 20-year bond or loan, whatever you want to call it. So at the end, it will have been a 38-year process to live up to our agreement, correct?
You are 100% correct.
Thank you. I was hoping for that. Number 2, the $5 million we're talking about, the agreement was for $108 million plus interest, which is a lot over 38 years. So are you saying right now we're going to be up to
We're going to be
113?
with, again, it was $108 million in the 2018 dollars when we started this project. Okay, and I was just looking at this today, 2020 dollars indexed to 2025 are about 20% less. Your purchasing power is about 20% less. So even if it's probably even more if we go back to 2018. So that 108 is probably going to be significantly higher as we start to look at this over time because of inflationary costs going up, the cost of construction going up, our need to meet the requirements of the CSO. So, all of that is going to play a part. So I think those numbers will be higher than we're trying to keep this, our focus is trying to keep this at the lowest cost we possibly can. So that's something that we're trying to focus on with this. But time and inflation just means that those numbers are going to go up.
Last question. There's a new administration, obviously, in Washington. Are we in touch with them? I've read some articles in the past few weeks or many weeks about, is our agreement, I guess the way I'm going to ask, is our agreement still valid? And you see us having to live to the fullest of this agreement?
Well, it's a binding consent decree with the U.S. Department of Justice and the U.S. Department of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Those two parties would have to agree to open up the consent decree for any modification to it. The U.S. EPA is sending inspectors down to take a look at the projects that we've put in place, which is part of their purview as they're monitoring the programs. So we'll have to see if there's going to be a change in the perspective of this administration right now in terms of consent decrees.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Madam Mayor, thank you. Do you have a second? Is that somebody
Yes,
second?
we have a
Okay.
second.
Thank you.
Okay, please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
25-93, excuse me, is a communication from the City Manager, Corporation Counsel, and Finance Director Comptroller with a request to adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 18, Article 14, Section 18-621 of the Code of the City of Peoria relating to existing tobacco retail licenses.
Councilmember Carmona?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I first, observing this from the cheap seats over there when you guys were talking about it before I was on council, I don't think I'm going to change anybody's mind with what I'm going to say, but I just feel like it has to be said because it's a question about what the government's here for and what their purpose is. So after we lower this number, it's always more difficult to, it's going to be more difficult to raise it back up even by one more license. So I just want to throw a little bit of caution out there. A person much smarter than me once said that there's nothing more permanent than a temporary government program. And even though this is not a temporary government program, the sentiment is the same, that we're removing a license and it's going to be very difficult, as I see it, to get it back. The question here, well, not question, but statement, I guess, is, should we stifle law-abiding citizens from opening up a business in the free market and in a so-called oversaturated, sector? It is a person's constitutional right to open up a business and take that risk. And if it is oversaturated, the market will speak and they will either fail because they go out of business, or they will succeed because it's not oversaturated. Lastly, this is also kind of sold to the public as a quality of life issue, which I don't disagree with. I'm not here advocating for tobacco in any way. And as admirable as it is for, our government to tell us to be healthy and how to live our lives, that is up to adults to decide what they are going to do, whether it's have a cocktail or smoke a cigar or a cigarette or whatever. So in long story short, I cannot support this measure because it's stifling growth and much needed tax revenue that we need for the city as well. Thank you.
You're welcome, Councilmember Carmona, and I appreciate your perspective and encourage you to continue to share your perspectives. Councilmember Vespa.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do appreciate Councilman Carmona's perspective, but for me, it's not just an eyesore when you see these vape shops, which they are eyesores. We saw them popping up on every corner for a while. It's not only deadly products, but it's also positively correlated to crime, property crime and violent crime within neighborhoods surrounding these standalone tobacco shops. There's actually studies that have supported this finding. The FBI said that if criminals are looking for quick cash, then robbing convenience stores or small, especially retail shops, is one of the best ways to do it, and specifically found that tobacco-only shops are generally big targets. So I don't think it's good for a number of reasons, and I do support keeping the cap where it is after the withdrawal of the one license. We can have discussions if people want to come here before us and want to make an individual case. That's fine. But I am certainly not enthusiastic about these businesses. I'm not trying to shut them all down. But we do not want to keep having them proliferate through our city. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're very welcome. Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Corporation Counsel, do we have a policy that says every time one of these outfits goes out of business, we reduce the number of licenses? I know it has been our practice, but is that a policy?
Those matters are completely attributable to your vigilant corporation counsel, not written policy.
Okay.
Every time one of those tobacco entities withdraws, I suggest this to the council to maintain the maximum amount of discretion in the council's hands to make these determinations going forward.
Thank you. I think, first of all, I agree with much of what Councilman Carmona said. Another problem I have with this and a few other businesses that we have in Peoria that are unpopular, it is easy to go after them, and where we do not necessarily go after other businesses. And that bothers me a bit. Also, we have a lot of liquor licenses out there, which are also there's a certain correlation with crime, but we're not reducing those when another one closes down. I'm not a fan of vape shops or whatever, but I think I just think we have a responsibility to public safety, but we also have a responsibility to preserve the freedoms of our citizens. And so I will be voting against this. I will be voting against this. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. welcome. Any other comments or questions? Councilmember Riggenbach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's important to note that this, with all due respect to the due diligence of our corporation counsel, he's acting on direction that he received from this horseshoe. And that was something that we deliberated about and gave a thorough vetting to, in my opinion. I think it's also important to note that we're not prohibiting future licenses being issued, but they do need to come, and part of that process would be council amending the cap. So it's kind of a two-step process, but it would still allow that future expansion on a case-by-case basis as council felt appropriate. So it puts a little more onus on us, makes us having to accept some of that responsibility, but I think that's a good way to move forward, having seen what these shops have done in some of our neighborhoods previously. So I will be supporting the motion. Do we have a motion?
We don't have a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Okay. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Jackson. Any other discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes with 3 nays: Carmona, Kelly, Velpula. Madam Clerk?
We are at regular business. 25-125 is a communication from the City Manager and Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer with a request to approve the utilization of TIF fund dollars to complete the remaining term of the Peoria Core Spring cohort. And on your desk in yellow is an updated attachment.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On April 29th, we received word from Serve Illinois that we must immediately pause the Peoria Core program due to cuts in AmeriCorps funding. And, you know, this was a program that was placed on the Trump administration's list of priorities that they didn't want to continue to fund. We did some work to try and, I'm going to talk about the financial side of it, then I'll turn it over to Melody to talk about the program, and she has the members of the program that are here, the staff from the program that are here and from her office. But, you know, what we tried to do, we had a cohort that was graduating 2 days later on that Friday after the announcement came out. So we kept them on, we held the graduation, and now we're just coming back to you to talk about how we can keep this existing cohort of 5 individuals running through their program that they started in February, and they would end in July. And we received some money to supplement the income of the AmeriCorps volunteers. They make $6.25 an hour, and we got some money through the Edwards Power Plant settlement through the National Resources Defense Council to supplement their wages to pay them $10 an hour. And so we asked NRDC if we could extend that and pay for their period of time over this last 2 weeks at the $10 an hour, and they agreed to that. So there's been no general fund dollars that have been spent on the program to date. And what we'd like to do is through the end of this program, utilize TIF funds. Every one of our TIFs, except for the stadium TIF, has in the line item budgets for workforce development. So this is an allowable expense within our TIFs to be able to use this funding for this purpose. The AmeriCorps volunteers would have to work within the TIF districts since they're operating with those TIF funds, but we can make adjustments and make that work. So that's what we're asking for your support for this evening. I'm going to turn it over now to our Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer, Melody Green, to talk about the program and introduce the staff that she has with her as well.
I think you said everything, so we could probably just leave now. Mr. Manager, Mayor Ali, and Council, thank you for allowing us to present this agenda item tonight. As Mr. Manager said, I'm Melody Green. I'm the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer for the City of Peoria. With me tonight, I have my team, Amelia O'Rogie, who is the city's DEI generalist. Amelia has also held role as the Peoria Core Case Manager, as well as the Peoria Core Program Director and interim Peoria Core Program Director. So she's bridged the gap in many spaces for us. We have Kevin Bennett here, who is our current crew supervisor, and he's done a phenomenal job in the field with our cohort members. And then Amanda Wilson is our current program director. And so they are down at Peoria Corps holding down the fort while I am here in City Hall. Mr. Manager said most of the details of what I plan to mention here to you all today, but I will go over some of the highlights of the program because I want to make sure we're able to point out the importance of what these members have done in our city to keep it beautiful and to develop themselves in our community. So since its beginning, the AmeriCorps-based Peoria Corps program and its cohort members have made a substantial and lasting impact on the city of Peoria through environmental stewardship, green infrastructure, maintenance, and community service. Each year, we have 2 cohorts work to advance workforce development and quality of life improvements across our neighborhoods. While the program has historically undergone many changes, including departmental housing, pass-through agency changes, leadership changes, and changes to the composition of the cohorts, Peoria Corps' impact on our community and many communities across our nation, just like so many other AmeriCorps programs, is undeniable. So as Mr. Manager mentioned, at the end of April, we learned that AmeriCorps would face 41% decrease in funding cuts, and along with that would come a long list of programming that would be cut as well. Peoria Corps was included on that list as one that was not in line with the current federal administration priorities. And so for the time being, the Edwards Coal Plant Settlement administrators have allowed us to bridge this about 2-week time period to allow the cohort that did not graduate. So just to be clear, we had 5 members graduate a couple of days after we got this news. They're done. And then we had concurrent cohorts running. So we still have 5 members who are still proceeding in the program. And so Edwards Settlement, seeing the value in the program, has agreed to allow them to remain on until we could bring this issue to you all to have you make the decision on whether or not we can bridge the gap for this cohort to finish their term. And so, with that being said, at the end of May, if we do not pass this measure tonight, the program will be terminated indefinitely, absent some federal administration reversal or legal injunctive measures to stop these actions. So tonight we're seeking to utilize TIF funding in the approximate amount of $41,723.55. That would cover our cohort members' living allowance through their graduation date of August 22nd. Now, I know in the council communication, we mentioned July as their graduation time frame, but it's actually August 22nd is the time frame we would need to get them through. And so that $41,000 is the amount. The Edwards Settlement Fund would cover the incentives. So the members who complete 900 hours of service in certain time frames, they are rewarded with incentives. And so the Edwards Settlement will continue to fund those as it has been funding those. To aid in your determination tonight, Amelia will tell you a little bit about some of our program impacts, our highlights, and our member successes. And if you have any questions for any of us following her addressing the council, please just let us know. We'll be here.
All right. Good evening, Council, Madam Mayor. It's my privilege to share with you just a few highlights that have occurred for our members and contributions they've made following their terms of service. Peoria Corps began in 2017, so these are highlights of members from 2017 until present. In the time frame of the most recent cohort, they completed 4,230 total service hours. 3,568 hours were directly tied to program activities such as litter removal, seed harvesting, plant installation, and green infrastructure maintenance. Members contributed to the care of over 60 acres of city green space. Environmental results included 541 bags of litter removed and 688 bags of leaves and debris collected. So that's just for this most recent cohort that began in January of 2024. 81 tires were also properly disposed of under the direction of the Peoria Corps Crew Supervisor. In cohorts 11 and 12, so starting in October 2024 and going through April 2025, 6,495.5 additional service hours were logged. Members contributed to the care of over 85 acres of city green space. Environmental cleanup results included 718 bags of litter removed, 586 bags of debris cleared, 121 pounds of aluminum cans, and 213 pounds of scrap metal collected, 28 tires, and 6 televisions disposed of properly, again, all under the direction of our Peoria Corps Crew Supervisor. Green infrastructure efforts specifically included 24 shrubs planted at Fayette and Monroe, 5 trees planted at Martin Luther King Drive and Union Hill, and 3 pounds of native pollinator seeds sown at the MacArthur Highway Rain Garden. In addition to that, we'd like to share some specific member milestones. In the most recent cohort that just graduated, one member, Adela Williams, completed all 900 service hours and earned her AmeriCorps Education Award about 2 weeks in advance of the end of her term. We had 4 additional members, Brad, Taryn, Steed, and Kendall, who were all near completion of their terms when the national stop order was issued. Despite having fulfilled their living allowance, all 4 intended to continue serving voluntarily, reflecting their commitment to the city and to the program. That cohort, which was cohort 11, did proceed with their graduation on Friday, May 2nd. Cohort 12, the current cohort, has 5 members, and they are on pace to complete 900 hours each for a projected total of 4,500 hours prior to the program pause. Every member showed exceptional engagement and progress. In regards to former members, the following former members went on to work with GIMAX: Clara Gonzalez, Andre Hoyle, Jonah Bloom, and Kristen Shadwell. Rachel Notter, a former member, went on to do an internship with GPEDC, got her MPA, and now works for the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. Stephanie Moreno went on to work as a temporary City of Peoria code enforcement aide. Nadia Altum graduated from ISU, utilizing her education award through AmeriCorps to obtain her bachelor's degree in interior design. We'd also like to mention that Darren Graves, who you saw earlier from our Public Works Department, began his career as a Peoria Corps Crew Supervisor, and upon his return from military duty, he assumed the newly created Green Infrastructure Coordinator position at our Public Works Department. Just a few other accomplishments here that we wanted to note about the program itself. It both provides a tangible environmental impact and also provides young adults and any adult in the program with workforce development. All Peoria Corps members receive hands-on training in green infrastructure, landscaping, and environmental services. They receive professional certifications such as their OSHA 10 and First Aid CPR certification, amongst others. They also receive work readiness skills, including punctuality, teamwork, communication, and reliability. Our graduates are better prepared for employment in public works, construction, environmental careers, and more, contributing to a stronger local workforce. They also provide cost-effective city support. Peoria Corps fills critical service gaps that would otherwise require additional city labor or contractor expense. An example, maintaining rain gardens and bioswales, tree planting and care, and regular litter and debris removal. They also are involved in positive community engagement. They become visible stewards of their own communities. Residents notice and appreciate their cleanup and beautification work. Members often live in the neighborhoods they serve, creating community pride and ownership. Projects reduce blight, enhance safety, and contribute to neighborhood revitalization. Peoria Corps works in alignment with city goals, including workforce readiness and youth engagement, neighborhood revitalization, environmental sustainability, and investment in underserved communities. Thank you.
If I could just end with one thing that stood out to me and what Amelia was saying, I just want to point out that Peoria Corps is a program for all of us, for everybody. We have all demographics, we have all ages who are adults. We don't serve kids or allow kids to serve, but adults of all ages, all demographics, all backgrounds. We've taken justice impacted individuals. We've taken students, college students, those who've received their GEDs, and everyone else under the sun. It takes commitment to serve in this program. They're not earning millions of dollars, but they're dedicated to our community, and so are we. And so we know we have hard decisions to make. You have hard decisions to make. We just hope that we've been persuasive enough tonight to make an argument for these members. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Green. Councilmember Allen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you so much, Chief Green, and to your team, Amelia, Kevin, and Amanda. I've personally observed Peoria Corps. I was honored to speak at a graduation a couple of years ago. I've recruited young people to Peoria Corps because I understand that it is a great opportunity for them to get some lifelong skills, professional development, pat the stats on the resume, great opportunity to pipeline them into other industries and professional development opportunities, and you all listed those in the milestones, so I appreciate that. Chief Green, typically, what's the average size of a cohort that you all recruit for? Because I know you say you have 5 and the one currently that's set to graduate in August. Is that typical?
That is typical. The max for our cohorts is 6. They do run concurrently, so we would normally have 2 6-people cohorts a year. They just graduate, start, and finish at different times.
Okay. Thank you. And then I know, and I appreciate the pivot of us looking at TIF funds as well as the Edwards coal plant dollars as well too. Do you all foresee an opportunity for us to get an extension to be able to launch another cohort possibly in the fall, or is that something that's still kind of unknown?
We're working on it, looking at all options, but if I'm honest, things are so up in the air with those who have sort of made these funding decisions. We did receive word of a new notice of funding for programs that had been terminated. There was a little confusion as to introducing new funding to a program that was just terminated for failing to align with federal priorities, but we don't have all the details at this time, and neither does some of the state agencies that are pass-through agencies for our program.
Well, I appreciate your leadership and the ability to, worry about what we can control and looking at what levers we can pull, especially to ensure these 5 people who are currently enrolled in the program, they ultimately graduate. They are individuals who are showing up each and every day, working to beautify our communities, and it isn't their fault that they're being impacted by federal priorities that change from time to time. So I'll be supporting this measure tonight. Thank you, Chief Green. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Councilmember Gordon Young?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, Councilmember Allen, you said everything I was going to say just about, including I had the honor last year to speak at the graduation. And, as you were speaking, here's what I was thinking about. I was thinking about the young man whose sister came to support him. And he was so proud. And he said to me he had never completed anything before. And just the pride that he carried. And I still see him to this day. And he is doing very well. For me, this is not just about a group of people who beautify Peoria. Yes, that's amazing that they do that. But it really is about how you all pour into them, how you give them purpose, how you uplift them. And that's quality of life. And I just have a hard time cutting off something that's so amazing to people. This is hard work, for a very minimal fee. And they are doing it. It's a lot of hours, and it takes a lot of determination. I remember talking to a young lady last year, and she talked about how many times she wanted to quit, but how they pulled together, and she just didn't do it. She kept going, right? And so I think the work that they've done, the work that you all have done, and I really appreciate your leadership and your entire team, Chief Green. I think that they deserve to graduate. I also agree with, if we look down the line, where can we find funding to continue this? Because again, this is not just about trees. This is about quality of life for our people, our citizens in this community, especially those who just want to do something different. Again, I can't speak enough about them because I'm in touch with a lot of them, and they love it. It's like a family and a great experience. I would hate to see that go. So I will definitely be supporting funding this as we move forward. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Jackson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chief Green, I echo the sentiments of my colleagues, and I must tell you, as a neighborhood association president, I certainly appreciate everything this group has been doing since its existence in 2017. I was just wondering here, do you all know how much it costs annually to run a program like this? I was looking for the figure in here. I see the decreases, but the question is important considering the fact that these individuals are operating in an educational realm, but they're also doing work and not receive a whole lot of pay for, but yet they provide a vital service, I think, to code enforcement, to public works, to neighborhood associations, at a relatively, I don't want to say it's inexpensive because it's vital, everything they do. I would hate to see it stop, I will be supporting this because I've noticed the crews working throughout the city. I appreciate the fact as well that they're often working in the fall and the wintertime when, a lot of the summertime work has at least been litter patrol and things like that has been suspended. So I've enjoyed their supplementing what the city has done. And I'm glad that the city manager had said we can use TIF funding as well. I would hate to see this program end. I will be supporting it. And Mr. Manager, one of the questions that had been in the back of my mind, we somehow found money to hire additional public works employees. And I've been asking myself, we need to hire some more code enforcement employees. Yet, it's not been talked about, but anything that we can help supplement city staff, public works, code enforcement with a program like this, I think is wonderful, and I will be supporting it as well.
Thank you. And just to answer your question, Councilmember Jackson, the total annual budget for the program year 24-25, which is the current program year, was $424,205, and there is a variety of sources. The city has a match amount that they provide both cash and in kind, and then also there's other matching sources this year, which include Edwards coal plant settlement and also some funds that were matched by the state, and then of course the AmeriCorps dollars, which are what was cut.
You're welcome. Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that Peoria Corps is one of the better things that we do in our city. It's bringing people along to the extent that they need it, and I don't suspect everyone needs it, but to the extent they need it, the personal discipline required to hold a job, to go out there every day, is priceless. So I'll be supporting this. I'm very happy that we can use TIF funds for this. This is something that, this is probably a little weird to bring up, but to me, this is such an important thing for our city to do that we should not, and I don't know why it's an important thing for the federal government to do or the state government to do. They've got, they're fighting wars and whatever, building the highways. This is something we ought to do, no matter what. This really serves our people, and to be dependent upon people who don't really care for its funding, I think, well, this is what happens. And this is something we should not ever allow to go away. So, Madam Mayor, I will move to approve.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Allen. I do want to also thank you, Chief Green, Amelia, and the entire team for your leadership in Peoria Core. I remember when the program first started. I remember when Anthony Corso and his team were putting the grant application together, and I actually had no idea that it would last this long. I've been involved with the AmeriCorps programs for a good number, for decades, and, you know, it's a great program, national service, you know, around the country. And just as Councilmember Gordon Young said, it's not about trees. It's not just about trees, but it's about lives, and it's about preservation. And, you know, it's just been a great contribution to people's lives in our community, and a great contribution to the beautification of our neighborhoods. So, you know, it's something, as Councilmember Kelly said, that we should do, whether we get the national, federal AmeriCorps funding or not. We have to find other ways to extend a program like this. So I think we have to definitely all put our antennas out to seek, whether it's private funding or state funding, but some other sources of funding to continue this type of initiative. Councilmember Vespa.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, this is, I don't think people realize just how much they did. October of last year to April of this year, 718 bags of litter removed. It's a lot of litter that would still be on the street in our public spaces if it weren't for AmeriCorps. 586 bags of debris cleared, 121 pounds of aluminum cans, 213 pounds of scrap metal. I mean, imagine that just still being all throughout our city. They've done a great service. I think they fly under the radar. I think, you know, a lot of us drive around and we see it, see the service that they're doing, and we appreciate it, but it's something that we kind of taken for granted. If they didn't do this, who else would have done it? So, you know, I absolutely support this, and it's absolutely horrible that the federal government has cut funding for this. Cities throughout America, like us, are struggling with whether or not we fill in the budget gap. I think this is, it's not very much money, about $40,000 to make sure that the you know, the people that are in the program can finish it. Certainly can't pull the rug out from under them, and we won't. But yeah, I certainly hope that the federal government reconsiders. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
25-126 is a communication from the City Manager and Corporation Council with a request to approve a sole source contract for the recodification of the City of Peoria Code of Ordinances with Civic Plus in an amount not to exceed $41,196, and this item requires 2/3 affirmative votes of members voting, not less than 6 votes.
Mr. Manager, Corporation Counsel?
Thank you. This is what they call a demonstrative exhibit. This is your code.
Oh, my.
We have not comprehensively, as an organization, reviewed and revised this code called recodification since 1993. So that project takes a lot of intense concentration, a lot of knowledge. So there's quite an industry now, recodifiers. The same organization that puts our code together and hosts it online, MuniCode, is now known as Civics Plus. And I asked them to prepare the materials that you see in the council package, which is a proposal for them to proceed with our recodification. I'm recommending it as a sole source because they are one of the most reliable purveyors of the code experience that our citizens and staff use every day. And their stewardship of our recodification will ensure that we have a national entity with a great reputation looking at each and every one of our ordinances and making sure that we haven't missed things that needed updating. Court cases, approaches, things like that. They'll provide legal memorandum for their suggested changes after that review. Nothing in the code will change unless and until this city council adopts those changes. But that comprehensive set of recommended changes and interaction with your staff and their staff will take about 12 to 18 months. A significant portion of that is assembling their professionals as a team that'll take on our work, and that'll take a few months for them to get those people scheduled in to take on our code. So I'd ask that you approve this sole source. I put it as sole source because MuniCode has been acquired by Civics Plus, so it's a different entity. They do have our current annual contract. That costs us around $10,000 a year. Those expenses will continue, and the cost of this contract is expressed in the council communication at $41,196. That would be sourced out of the legal department budget. A portion would come out this year on retention. The balance as they made progress and completed the work likely next year. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilmember Sear.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Hayes, for volunteering your department to pay for this expense. Move to approve, Madam Mayor.
Seconded by Councilmember Gordon Young. Any questions, comments? Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
25-94 is a communication from the City Manager and Corporation Council with a request to adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 30, Article 5, Section 30-298 of the Code of the City of Peoria relating to towing of private vehicles and fees. And on your desk, there is a handout of an updated council communication and ordinance.
Council Hayes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council may recall that at our last meeting, we had a discussion about our rotational tow list. The rotational tow list allows our law enforcement officers to clear scenes quickly because the participants in the list guarantee that they'll be present within a half hour of being called. On occasion, they may not be available and so that they can pass, but this is a critical element of the performance of your police department for them to finish up and get off a scene, and oftentimes it's the tow truck coming to pick up the vehicle is the last thing that happens. So it's important for our police to have reliable service. We have 9 entities that serve us now. The chief of police feels that that's an adequate number for the service level we have. The rotational fees then are established by our ordinance, and the individuals whose vehicles are towed have to satisfy that fee. We last adjusted that fee in 2020. I think the council action was in 2019, and it increased the fee from $100 to $150. You may recall that there was a scale as well that was $5 a year was added, so the present fee is $175. That hasn't been adjusted since January of 2024. Last meeting, we recommended increasing that just by CPI, and that was reflected in in the council communication and the draft ordinance. Before you today is a modified recommendation. I met with Bruce Pedigo of Chuck's Towing and Donnie Stanton of Mr. Towit, 2 of our most reliable providers of this service. And those gentlemen expressed a lot of concerns about their industry. One of them is the president of the statewide association, towing association, and they feel that our fees are behind the times. And they were adamant that the adjustments that we suggested were inadequate to deal with their costs. I met with them, and there was a couple of compelling data points I wanted to share with you. The state police present fee is $250 per tow. That's quite a bit more than what we're at $175 right now. Champaign-Urbana, which is a downstate community and obviously a college town, has a lot of towing, they're at $200, and they modified that over a year ago. We had suggested our fees escalate to $205 in 2029. My recommendation is that the council accelerate the pace of the change of fees and establish the fees as of June 1st of this year at $200 per tow. and not change that fee through 2028. And then come back to council in 2028 and see what we're doing. And change one other element that isn't present in our fees. We looked at a lot of other jurisdictions, and it wasn't really fair to compare the fees directly because their tow fee wasn't the only fee that was charged. There were a lot of other fees that were charged. In order to fully address the cost issues, I'm recommending that we also modify our practice of not charging for mileage within the city of Peoria and allow them to charge $5 per mile within the city of Peoria, which they can't charge now. They presently can charge $5 per mile if they have to tow a vehicle outside of the city from a rotational tow pickup. But that would allow them to address their cost issues. They at least said last week when we met that that would satisfy their issues in the interim. And they felt like we could do a little more as a staff to make sure we're monitoring their industry and improve performance over time with some of the other vendors. So with that, I indicate to you that they had a compelling set of facts about their costs, showed me their insurance rate costs over the last few years, which are considerable. And so they made a compelling case to me that this adjustment is appropriate, will allow us to continue to get the service we need to have our law enforcement officers quickly clear scenes, and we'll revisit this in 3 years in 2028 and see whether those adjustments have been adequate and whether we should adjust it further. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well,
thank you.
There are several questions. I'm going to lead off. Can you articulate the differences between the last staff recommendation and this one in terms of dollars and cents?
Yes. A recommendation that we presented at the last meeting was to immediately modify the fees to $185, go to $190 on January 1st of 2026, $195 January 1st of 2027, $200 on January 1st of 2028, and $205 January 1st of 2029. There were a few other fees that were in that set of fees that were adjusted slightly to reflect those changes as well. Those haven't been changed in this recommendation. They remain the same. The mileage rate did apply outside of the city of Peoria, but would apply in this recommendation within the city of Peoria so that they could gather that cost as well.
And why would you add the mileage cost to the city of Peoria, within the city of Peoria? And why is it at $5 per mile?
Couple of things. We had a rate of $5 per mile for outside the city, so keeping the mileage rate the same made some sense.
Okay.
The mileage rates, depending on where you're at, vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. Some charge 5, some charge 4. The rate change overall, changing to where it was in adding the mileage, was that I felt in good conscience we couldn't go to 250 as the state police have, and that was just too much. But to address their cost issues, because there's a real cost to the moving the truck and the vehicle around, that addressing it through a mileage charge was an appropriate way, and it's a common way that many jurisdictions deal with these different costs and whatnot.
I'm just wondering if we add the mileage cost, if we're getting up to that 250 or more, possibly.
I think within the city of Peoria, you're likely to have a maximum mileage rate that might approach that $50 mark if they're at the far north end of town and have to move, a full 10 miles. I think it would be very uncommon to be over that amount. I think the state police charges a $250 plus a mileage. So, it's not really a direct comparison. And when you look at the different communities, there's all kinds of different charges that apply in different communities that we don't have. So there wasn't a convenient large set of apples to apples comparisons to present.
Okay. Councilmember Gordon, yeah?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to commend Bruce of Chuck's Towing and Donnie of Mr. Towit for their resilience, for sticking with this, for coming back, for calling. I've learned more in the last couple of weeks about about the towing industry than I ever thought I would want to know. What I have found, though, is that many of the things they spoke about is true. In that, like during my tenure with the Peoria Police Department as a dispatcher, we had a rotation list of about, at one time, 20 tow trucks or tow companies. And that is significantly lowered, in the last, I don't know how many years. And so we don't have a lot of tow companies anyway. So let's just say we have an accident and we need 3 tow companies. Well, if we've got 8, and I may be generous with the number that we have, well, it's 9.
We have 9.
We have 9. Wow. Okay, well, we're already, down 3, and so again, we don't have a lot of people doing this, and I think that it requires a lot of work to do it. But one of the things that I want to apologize for is the last meeting, I inadvertently and mistakenly lumped 2 things together. I was talking about the impound fee and how that tacked on with the towing fee would be unfair to our citizens. Well, here's what I know. Everyone doesn't get the impound fee, right? So that's not going to be every tow truck or every tow service. And the other piece is that's not fair to the tow companies for, with my mindset, to tag them for something that's totally separate from what they do. With that being said, I think it is comparable, what they're asking for. And I agree with it. We had a conversation about what's the maximum, that $5 per mile, what would that look like? And Peoria just isn't that big. We're big enough to where we, somebody who knows somebody and, and small enough to know somebody and big enough to never see them. And so again, it's the truth. And so with that being said, again, I commend you all for the work that you've done, and I will be supporting the increased fee.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Carmona.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just kind of want to add to this. So this is obviously a private company that that is on our list that provides a crucial service that we absolutely need. I just kind of want to bring a little light to, people use the word inflation. We talked about it a little bit earlier. And I think it's really important to remember that, these companies have a lot invested into what they do, probably in the millions of dollars. And, when you have a deal like this where you are forced to charge a customer something that's below market rate, then it can be very difficult for companies to continue to do this. And as we know, or if you don't know, inflation will continue to rise. This is a guarantee because our government will not stop printing money. And as this happens year by year, we will continue to see, and this tow company will continue to see, prices going up. But it's not really prices going up, it's diminishing of your buying power. And so I want everybody to remember that, this is a crucial service. I'm going to be supporting this, and the inflation won't stop. So I think that we have to make sure we do right by this company who provides this service. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Seeing no more comments, do we have a motion? No. Need a motion. Moved by Councilmember Kelly to approve, seconded by Councilmember Euler. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We're at unfinished business. 25-65 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Community Development with a request to concur with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance approving a special use in a Class R1 single-family residential district for a short-term rental for the property located at 223 West Detweiler Drive.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to turn the floor over to our Assistant Community Development Director, Leah Allison.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a refresher from the last time this case was before you, it's a request for short-term rental at 223 West Detweiler. The request is for occupants of a 3-bedroom home. The cap on the area would allow 2 short-term rentals within a parameter of in our records, undefined neighborhood association area. We did not have record of it, although through the public hearing process, we have been made aware that the Detweilers Homeowners Association is active, but not necessarily registered with us. This would be a proposed second short-term rental within that general area. Since the last time we met, we were also informed of some unrecorded bylaws with the Homeowners Association of Detweiler that, in their opinion, restricts the use of this property as a short-term rental. Our recommendation is still remaining as is to approve. It does meet our standards of the Unified Development Code for short-term rentals. Can I answer any questions at this point?
Councilmember Seer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Because of some of these technicality that Leah is, or Miss Allison's talking about, sorry, I'd like to defer to the next meeting, 2 weeks to May 27th, please.
Okay. Was that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, seconded by Councilmember Allen. Please cast your ballots. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Madam Clerk?
25-96 is a request by Councilmember Euler for the following. A, request to reconsider item number 25-096 B, C, and D, which is a communication from the City Manager, Corporation Counsel, and Finance Director Comptroller with a request for the following. B, adopt an ordinance implementing a municipal grocery retailer's occupation tax and a municipal grocery services occupation tax. Or C, adopt an ordinance amending the municipal retailer's occupation tax and municipal services occupation tax at 2%. Or D, adopt an ordinance amending the municipal retailer's occupation tax and municipal services occupation tax at 2.25%.
Councilmember Euler?
Madam Chairwoman, as I see it, there's two issues here. First of all is the idea of raising taxes on the public, and that's one specific piece of the conversation which we discussed in the last meeting. But the bigger issue to me and the basis behind the reconsideration is the fact that over a quarter of the current council was not here in the last meeting to have this discussion. And being that this is outside of normal budget season and should be a topic that is being discussed with a full complement of budget items, revenues, expenses, and all of the entirety of the things that we consider when we make a decision on revenue and expenses that have this much of an effect on the city. I think that it's important that those council members, specifically Sear, Carmona, and Kelly, have an opportunity to weigh in on the discussion, something that they will be accountable for the remainder of their term. And so, as I believe, unfortunately, this will probably die for a lack of a second from the folks that who voted in favor of raising this fee on the public. It's still important to me that it's called out that the quarter of this council should have the opportunity to say something about it. The discussion should happen, and the public should understand that the 3/4 of the council decided to raise what is termed a regressive tax on you and don't want the other quarter of the council to have the opportunity to weigh in on the discussion. So with that, I'll move to reconsider items B, C, and D. Thank you.
Is there a second? It has to be a second by someone who was present that voted. Okay. Is there a second? Okay, motion dies for lack of a second. Councilmember Riggenbach? No, okay. Okay, Madam Clerk?
If there's no further unfinished business, we would be at new business.
Okay. New business, I want to first ask, sorry. Okay, new business, I wanted to first ask you, Clerk Tar, if you would like to discuss an item.
Yes. Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to mention on the 4th floor, just right outside Chambers here, we have a display case that highlights key moments in the City of Peoria governance. It's kind of a timeline. And my staff had worked on this, especially in light of the elections, the municipal elections. And it showcases the city's evolution from its first election, 1845, up to current date, specific milestones. And some of those milestones, of course, is the first election in 1845, then the adoption of the city manager form of government in 1953, and then, let's see, the cumulative voting system in 1991 for the at-large council members. So it all highlights, it has all the, like our minutes out there, we have news articles out there, even important elections like yourself, Madam Mayor. It highlights the first woman of color to be mayor. So if you could take some time and just look at the display case, we even have handouts you're welcome to take. You can take them home, share them with your family.
I want to
you.
clarify, first woman, period.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you. But you did a great job. You and your team did a great job on that display. It looks beautiful. How long will it stay up?
It'll stay up for about 3 months, and then we're working on another display after that.
Okay, fantastic. Next, I'm going to turn it over to our Corporation Counsel Hayes to make comments, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I want to mention that everybody has on their desk a new handbook thanks to our clerk. She's put together an excellent resource for all of you that has a lot of critical information in it. I'd like to call your attention to a couple of things that I think would be helpful to you. I know that all of you have done your Open Meeting Act training as required, but there's no requirement for refresher training. And so one of the items in here is the most recent Public Access Counselor slide deck on Open Meetings Act. If you wanted to, you could take the training again, but if you don't, here's the information about the Open Meetings Act, which governs what we do in public and also can guide you if you're in a circumstance where multiple council members are present and things like that. So if you need a refresher on that, it's here. There's also a slide deck from the same source, the Public Access Counselor, on Freedom of Information Act. So if you've got some questions about, you know, why am I getting an email from staff about searching my personal email, you can look at how the Open Meetings Act and the FOIA work together to create open and honest government, and you're a part of that. And oftentimes are called to help us with records requests and things like that. There's a short portion of the materials are on governmental ethics. It's a very important component, and it bumps into our lives all the time about conflicts of interest and the Gift Ban Act and political activities. And so that resource would be helpful for you to review and understand. And if you've got questions, I'm happy to answer those. I left the biggest part of this book that's probably the most important for last, because there's also a memo about council rules on your desk, and this tome includes the council rules. And so the council rules on your desk are pursuant to the rules adopted by prior council. These are amendable over the next 90 days by this council if you choose to make changes. Some of you may recall that in 2023, we had a series of changes to our code book. We talked about articulating if there was a conflict of interest, what that conflict was. We did some work about the gender references within the code. We pointed to a couple of other things that had changed over time in our own system. And so if you feel like our rules of procedure need to be adjusted, you might want to make those suggestions, and we can get them in front of the council and see if they might be adopted as additional rules of procedure. We just had an issue today on a rule of procedure, and we had a rule of procedure issue that was part of the discussion last session. And I've been around a lot of boards. Our board's pretty good about rules of procedure. You know them, but here they are, and you may want to change some of them. So there's your opportunity. That's all I have, Your Honor. I appreciate you giving me the time to mention these things, and I just want to say one other thing. I've got a lot of experience with a lot of clerks in a lot of municipalities in my career. It's been a real blessing to work with Clerk Tar because she's put together an excellent piece of work here for all of you to use going forward. So thank you.
Very well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Allen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to point out 2 projects that were approved in District 4 via the consent agenda. One of those will be featuring sidewalk and ADA ramp projects in Creighton Woods, so I'm very excited about that. And then the next one that I'm ultra excited about, and I've been talking about Reservoir Boulevard for years, I feel like, but we are moving forward with the design work for Reservoir Boulevard. So constituents along Reservoir Boulevard and those who take that road, remain patient. We're working on it, but I'm very excited to see the design work moving forward. So thank you to our Public Works Department, and very excited to see this project moving in the right direction. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Regenbach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think we all know what a great job our employees do, and oftentimes we call them award-winning. Well, our Community Development Grant Department is an award-winning team. Director Doolin sent out an email, I can't remember if it was this week or late last week, but I just want to read this to make sure I get the essence of it correctly. The Grants Division was awarded the Community Impact Award at a National Community Development Association conference recently. This award recognizes organizations whose work is innovative, collaborative, I remember hearing that word a lot last week, collaborative, and promotes sustainable and lasting housing. Our Grants Division was recognized as a leader in the field by their peers from other cities and counties throughout the Midwest. So to Catherine Murphy and her team, and let me say these names because I think they deserve that shout out: Ben Crockham, Allie Krausen, Nicole Morrow, Letty Vargas, Emma Bryan, and Justin Mishler. Hats off to you. Congratulations. Great work.
Great. Congratulations, team.
Worth shouting out the incredible weekend that we experienced here in downtown Peoria this weekend. The Peoria Civic Center was just an incredible beehive of activity, and the Nate Bargatze show set 2 records and had over 18,000 people at those 2 concerts, the shows. There's a couple other names of acts toward the Civic Center. Again, I don't recognize all of these names, but Sether was there, Mad Dog the Musical, and Shinedown. So great job to the Civic Center Authority and the Rick Edgar and the leadership there on continuing to bring acts into town that just fill that place and fill our downtown with activity. And I too would like to just thank my colleagues for their support on the Evans Street sidewalk project that's been in the budget for about 1.5 years, and that will connect some green space in the North Valley, and I'm very excited about that. For Morton Square Park, you'll have direct access to the riverfront. So thank you for that, and we'll look forward to that completion later this year. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Great news. Councilmember Sear?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I want to start by thanking Councilman Orler for his effort, for his integrity, courage, and effort to try to have this 5th district say a few words about the last item on the agenda, which was the grocery tax. So I really appreciate your effort. Unfortunately, my people will be silenced for a while. I've learned many lessons in this chair the last 8 years. Some are very good, and some, unfortunately, have not been so good. And this last item, to me, it's really one of the worst lessons that we can teach our colleagues around this horseshoe, especially Mr. Carmona now being the newest one. We all have to learn to count to 6, and it's really just a terrible rule for me, in my opinion. So I'm sure you'll learn that very quick. As long as you have your 6th vote, you don't care about what's going on. So I want to make it just a comment, and then I got some report backs from Mr. Manager. Number one, Mr. Manager, I just want to, since I was not part of the discussion, I hope I can ask a few questions about the grocery tax. Well, what was the amount of money that we were trying to raise?
Staff estimated that the grocery tax generates about $5 million a year.
Okay. I've Googled this, and I don't know, I know we didn't have a conversation, but approximately how many cities do you think we have in the state of Illinois? How many cities do you think we have approximately in the state of Illinois?
I think that the municipal league represents about 1,148 cities and municipalities and towns throughout the state.
Okay. So when I Googled it, I mean, your numbers are much higher than mine, but if you're looking at cities with home rules and that have people, at least 2,500 people, there was like 500, something like that in Google. So I use that number for my comments here. But, you know, one thing, I mean, when we're looking at money, and no, we're talking, I just don't understand why, Madam Mayor, and all of us around the horseshoe, and really everybody listening tonight, I don't understand why we're not calling our elected official in Springfield and the governor's office. Now, just the last 4 years alone, they have spent over $2.5 billion, $2.5 billion on illegal immigrants, okay? So if you divide that by 500 cities, which is the number I Google, that's $5 million. So my intention tonight is really to try to get everybody to really start communicating with our elected official in Springfield and governor's office, say, no, we're short $5 million. Why don't you help us here, people that have paid into that pot of money that you're spending? Okay, enough of that. Next thing, my report back. I wrote down a new one tonight, Mr. Manager. I'd like to have a report back on the HRA breakdown and where can we use the money. Clear enough, Mr. Manager? Is that okay? Second report back. I need to know what we're working on under the home rule. The city of Peoria, we're under home rule. Are we allowed to have deductible fees or taxes for our constituent right here in the city of Peoria under home rule? Because right now, the only one we have in my understanding is the real estate taxes. And I think you've been working on that, but I'd like to have a report back sometime in the very near future before we start talking about the budget for 2026. See what we can do for that. I'd like to have a report back after talking with Kyle, Director Craddy. The last 4 years, I'm very, very interested in knowing what the real growth, if any, of Peoria on our expenses and our revenue, excluding any type of grants or free money we had from state government or federal government. I'm just curious, and I want all us to know and have that discussion. What is the real growth of Peoria the last 4 years? Next one would be on restricted fund movement. I know we have many funds that Mr. Craddy is in charge of. Some of them are restricted and some are not, okay? I want to educate myself and my colleagues on how many of them are restricted and which one we can use when we need to plug a hole, which we will have obviously some challenges in the next session for the budget. I really want to know, and I want all my colleagues to know the rules on that. Same thing, Mr. Manager, with the TIF. Tonight we have a TIF that we took $40,000 down. What are the rules on how we can use TIF money in different areas for budget purpose? And the last one, I want to be educated on the contribution that we make to our pension plan. The difference between actuary contribution and the state minimum income. Okay? I'm sorry for all this work. How much time do you think you need, sir, to get back to us?
Give us at least 2 weeks to put this together.
Okay. I would really appreciate in the next meeting if we can give a report back to all of us, please, so we can start discussion about the budget fairly soon. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. As a follow-up to that, I just want to point out that there's something called LGDF, and it's Local Government Distributive Fund, and that is the state income tax that really should be shared more so with local governments, cities, and we've constantly, through the Illinois Municipal League, tried to convince our state legislators that we need more, a higher percentage given to the states. Really what I feel is our right for more of that fund to trickle down and be allocated to our city. So there's a fight that's been going on for a long time for that funding. Councilman Sear, I don't think that the $5 million is, coming outside of LGDF. And we're talking about $5 million a year, not a $5 million one and done. So the only way that I think we're going to get it is through an increase in LGDF. But we'll continue that fight. We'll continue that fight. I do want to point out, Councilman Riggenbach pointed out some awards that were given to Community Development Impact Awards, and our police chief got an award about a week ago at Northern Illinois University. What was the name of that award, Chief? Do you know? Do you know, Manager?
Public administration program. They awarded somebody that's working in the field.
Okay, for your work in the field of public.
Yes, it was the graduates from the master's program. During the graduation part, there was a small ceremony to honor somebody that's in the field.
Okay, I thought you already graduated last year.
Now it's, as an alum, somebody that's doing the job.
Okay, so our chief got recognized at the Northern Illinois University for his work in public administration. Congratulations, Chief. We're proud of you. We're proud of you. Councilmember Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I apologize for taking everyone's time here, but I would just like us to consider when our taxpayers send money to Washington, D.C., and then that money comes back here, it is 1/6 of the amount of money that was sent out there. Okay? In other words, if they cut taxes and didn't collect that, however much money that is, we would have to make up what the program costs, which costs our citizens 1/6. I don't know what the number is for our state government, but it still has to pass through these hands and these hands and those hands, and then we get that dollar. And it's extremely inefficient, and yet we are so dependent on that. If we began to reverse it, it would cost our citizens far less and put things like Peoria Core, etc., in our hands, not in their hands. They don't care. We care about our people. It's just a little, what do they call it? It's shrinkage, in the retail business, they call that shrinkage. We got a lot of shrinkage for every dollar we send out there and get back. We should understand that, especially when we're speaking with our legislators, that this is not a real efficient system. What are they sending us all this money for? Why don't they leave that alone, cut taxes? We'll raise the money, but we'll do it at 1/6 the rate that they will. Thank you for indulging me.
Welcome. Any other new business, Madam Clerk? Oh, Councilmember Jackson?
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, I missed you.
I just had three items I wanted to get an update on. I missed the legislative breakfast. I know we had been waiting for the rest of the funds for the Riverfront redevelopment plan. And I know the state legislature is wrapping up its end of the year budget session. Have we heard anything, sir? And the other project also deals with state funding. I think 7 million of the MacArthur corridor funds have been released, but we were trying to get the other 3 million. Have we heard anything?
We have asked our legislators, and we have not received any word from DCO on the release of those funds yet. At this point, with just a couple weeks left in the legislative session, we're just going to simply hope that we can get those projects reappropriated so that as we move into the next fiscal year, that we have the authorization that still is there to continue those projects.
The funding is still, but we have received the bulk.
The General Assembly has authorized the projects. Whether or not the state has the money, that's a question that we don't know, because the capital budget, those dollars were supposed to come from a casino in Chicago that hasn't even been built yet. So that's one of those elements that we're waiting to see where those funds come. They'll be released by DCO when those funds are available. At this point, they have not been released.
Okay. Last thing, I just want to compliment the Riverfront Development, the Riverfront Museum Director, Mr. Morris, on a wonderful multicultural fair on Saturday. It was just, was it the first one, Mayor? And I remember.
It's the second annual, and it's put on by Peoria Public Schools.
Oh, yeah, you're right. But it was just nice to see such a diverse crowd of people. And I felt really proud with the level of international representation we have with all of the different teachers, and to see the performances and to hear them talk about education in their country. It has been very enriching. And I tell the students, when I was a student, we didn't have the benefit of that, international teachers, and I've really, really enjoyed it. One class that I work in, we had a Zoom meeting. Well, the teacher is from Jamaica, and we had a Zoom meeting with another teacher and her students in Jamaica, and the students were just floored by the opportunity. So there's been a wonderful benefit of that relationship, and I hope it's something that will continue, because I'm learning just as much as the students are. And I think the public got that opportunity on Saturday as well. So it was a great event. And by the way, I was talking to my sister in Houston. She said they have a multicultural international event. It was suspended during COVID, and it has not come back. But I was just bragging on what Peoria had going on, and so she was a little jealous, but it was a wonderful event. So kudos to Director Morris from the Riverfront Museum. Thank you, Madam
For
Mayor.
hosting that, but again, it's Peoria Public Schools event
yes,
that was
it was
held
great.
at the Riverfront Museum, and I applaud that effort. Over 114 teachers at Peoria Public Schools from across the world, and they have a sponsorship program, so they've actually given 75 teachers to another school district and another, 50 or so to another school district. I think Decatur Public Schools and another district. It's a great initiative.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other new business? Councilmember Gordon Young.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to echo what Councilmember Jackson was speaking of regarding the multicultural fair. I had the pleasure, and I call it a pleasure because I hung out with my 15-year-old niece and 18-year-old great-nephew. And they wanted to hang with me all day, and I was really impressed with that. But the beauty in the moment is all day, for 12 hours, we were able to find something to do. And it was a great event. We went there. We have, just want to talk about how great Peoria is. They enjoyed the Riverfront Museum. And just even like we went to the mall, a lot of things are happening in Peoria. And I don't want us to lose sight of that. I know we talk about some of the negative things that are going on, and that has to happen for us to, in fact, change. But again, just from our park district to our school district to our police and fire personnel. Speaking of police, I know we recognize Chief E. For his outstanding public service award. I was traveling southbound on University today, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention this because I've been thinking about it all day, how grateful and how blessed we are as a community to have a police chief who rolls up his sleeves and gets involved. But there was an accident at this location, and to see our chief standing in the middle of traffic, directing traffic, there's a difference between transactional leadership and transformational leadership. That is a true example of outstanding leadership, transformational leadership, and again, attitude's reflection of leadership. So I want to thank you, Chief, for the work that you've done and the difference that you've made in this community. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. The award reads Eric Echevarria, Outstanding Service Award for his leadership and dedication to serving the public as Chief of Police for the City of Peoria, Illinois. Okay. Madam Clerk.
We are at citizens' opportunity to address the City Council.
And we just have one, David Williams, Junior, right? And David, you were appointed tonight as a commissioner for Advisory Committee for Police and Community Relations. You may be our youngest city commissioner.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I appreciate the shout out there. I had this little, as we kind of wind down the school semester, we had this little project that we had to do for like a little final speech. It couldn't be too long, but I just wanted to share it with you all, considering I thought it was actually rather nice. I took the time and heart. It's a little short speech, the United States of America, a name that vibrates throughout the entire world, whether that be through hope or hope and peace, or if it's through fear. There is no doubt our country has made one of the greatest footprints on the face of the earth, ever. It is important to recognize that we live in one of the freest, benevolent, and the greatest democracies to ever exist. It is important to know how far we have come. The fight for freedom, liberty, and equality has made us one of the greatest role models the world has ever seen. The United States truly has one of the greatest influences ever, so much to the point that millions of people around the world look at us as a beacon of hope and risk their lives in traveling across the world to experience what we all call the American dream. I feel like people take this experience for granted. The amount of hate that the greatest country in the world has ever seen is unbelievable. These people try and threaten the soul and core of our democracy. Unfortunately for them, the strength of our country completely shuts them out. The brave men and women that risk their lives every day so our children can fulfill their hopes and dreams will never go unnoticed. The fight for freedom dates all the way back to the Great American Revolution. These people that risk their lives from then until now for people like you and I are truly heroes. And to the fallen heroes from these conflicts, they will never be forgotten. The push for freedom will be a never-ending journey. The love that we all share for our country is unmatched. We all have the opportunity to live in the most diverse cultural nations ever. It is important to know that diversity is the American culture. Throughout our country's existence, we have faced many challenges that seem impossible to overcome, whether it be the American Civil War, World War I and World War II, or overcoming oppression as a nation. It is always important to know that our country has always came through, and it was through the strength of we the people. There is truly no challenge that the land of the free cannot overcome. So let's take the time to appreciate everyone that's within this country and journey alongside with you. Enjoy the day and always remember that we are all blessed to call the United States of America home. And that's all I just like to share with you guys. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Commissioner. Madam Clerk?
We have an executive session.
I would like to invite a motion to adjourn and to convene in closed session immediately following adjournment of the city council meeting pursuant to the Open Meetings Act 5 ILCS 122C5 to discuss the purchase of real property for the use of the public body, including discussing whether a particular parcel should be acquired. Moved by Councilmember Gordon Young, seconded by Councilmember Allen.
Madam
Yes.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I have a point of information. I want to apologize to the council for some confusion because I attached the wrong exhibit to your yellow sheet on the towing ordinance. And the correct version will be distributed in our closed session.
Okay.
So I apologize for that confusion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Please cast your ballots. Thank you for your service.